From the shadows they come, creatures of the night, feared and whispered about, vampires. Their legend spans cultures and centuries, each telling its own terrifying tale. In ancient Mesopotamia, monstrous beings preyed on the living, draining them of their life force. In China, tales were spun of hopping vampires, their thirst for blood unquenchable. Across the globe, the vampire myth took root. It spoke to our deepest fears, the fear of darkness, of the unknown, of death itself. But one name rises above the rest, a name synonymous with the vampire, Dracula. His story, a chilling blend of history and imagination, continues to captivate and terrify us. It's a story that began centuries ago, in the heart of Transylvania, with a ruler known for his brutality. Among the pantheon of monsters, Dracula reigns supreme. He is the quintessential vampire, the embodiment of our deepest fears. His name alone evokes images of dark castles, shadowed forests, and the chilling promise of eternal night. But what is it about Dracula that sets him apart? Why has this particular vampire, out of all the others, captured our imaginations for so long? The answer lies in the unique blend of history, literature, and cultural fascination that has shaped his legend. Dracula is not merely a creature of myth, he is a figure rooted in history, inspired by the brutal reign of Vlad Tepes, the 15th century ruler of Wallachia. This connection to a real historical figure lends a chilling authenticity to Dracula's story, blurring the lines between fact and fiction. This essay aims to unravel the intricate tapestry of Dracula's legend, tracing his evolution from historical figure to literary icon, and exploring his enduring impact on popular culture. To understand Dracula, we must first delve into the historical figure who inspired him, Vlad III, also known as Vlad Tepes, or Vlad the Impaler. This notorious ruler's life and actions have left an indelible mark on history and folklore alike. Born in 1431 in Transylvania, Vlad's reign was marked by violence and brutality. His early years were spent in a region fraught with conflict, shaping his future as a ruler. His preferred method of execution, impalement, earned him a fearsome reputation that extended far beyond the borders of his realm. This gruesome technique was not just a method of punishment but a psychological weapon. Vlad's ruthlessness was not without purpose. He ruled during a time of intense political turmoil, with the Ottoman Empire constantly threatening to expand its territory. His actions were a desperate measure to protect his land and people. Vlad's brutality was a calculated strategy, a means of instilling fear in his enemies and consolidating his power. His reign was a complex interplay of fear, power, and survival. However, his methods were undeniably cruel. Impalement, a slow and agonizing death, involved impaling victims on sharpened stakes and leaving them to die. This method was designed to send a clear message to his adversaries. Vlad's reign of terror left a lasting mark on the region, and his name became synonymous with cruelty and terror. The stories of his deeds spread far and wide, embedding themselves in the collective memory of the people. It was this dark legacy that would later serve as the foundation for Bram Stoker's iconic vampire. Stoker's imagination was fueled by the tales of Vlad's brutality and the eerie atmosphere of Transylvania. Stoker, drawing on folklore and historical accounts of Vlad Tepes, transformed the historical figure into a creature of the night, forever cementing his place in the annals of horror. The legend of Dracula continues to captivate and terrify audiences to this day. Vlad Tepes was no stranger to violence. His father, Vlad II Dracul, was a member of the Order of the Dragon, a chivalric order dedicated to defending Christianity against the Ottoman Turks. Vlad II earned the surname Dracul, meaning dragon, for his ferocity in battle. This epithet would later be passed down to his son, Vlad III, who became known as Dracula, meaning son of the dragon. However, Vlad Dracula would surpass his father in both his military prowess and his infamous cruelty. Vlad's childhood was marked by political upheaval. He spent years as a hostage of the Ottoman court, a formative experience that instilled in him a deep hatred for the Ottomans. Upon his ascension to the throne of Wallachia, Vlad was determined to secure his realm against Ottoman encroachment. He embarked on a campaign of terror, using impalement as his weapon of choice. His reign was a bloody one, marked by constant warfare and ruthless suppression of his enemies. Vlad's methods, though undeniably cruel, were effective in securing his hold on power and repelling the Ottoman threat. Section 5. A Reign of Terror, Impalement, and the Birth of a Monster. Impalement, Vlad Tepes' favored method of execution, was a gruesome spectacle that struck fear into the hearts of his enemies and subjects alike. Victims were impaled on sharpened stakes, often while still alive, and left to die a slow and agonizing death, their suffering serving as a grim reminder of Vlad's power. The stakes were typically positioned vertically, slowly piercing the victim's internal organs as they slid further down the stake, prolonging their torment. Vlad's use of impalement was not merely a form of punishment, it was a calculated act of terror designed to instill fear and obedience. The sight of rows upon rows of impaled victims served as a chilling warning to any who dared oppose him, a macabre forest of death. His brutality knew no bounds, and his reputation as a ruthless tyrant spread throughout Europe, cementing his legacy as a figure of dread. Stories of Vlad's cruelty reached the ears of foreign dignitaries and travelers who returned home with tales of the Impaler Prince, further spreading his infamy. These stories, often embellished with each retelling, contributed to the growing legend of Vlad Dracula, a name that would echo through the ages. The line between historical fact and folklore began to blur, and Vlad Tepes, the historical figure, began to morph into Dracula, the monster of legend. His reign of terror, steeped in blood and brutality, provided fertile ground for the vampire legend to take root, forever linking his name with the supernatural. Section 6. Whispers in the Dark, the Making of a Legend. While Vlad Tepes' brutality undoubtedly contributed to the Dracula legend, other factors also played a role. Folklore and superstition were deeply ingrained in 15th century Europe, and tales of vampires and other supernatural creatures were commonplace. Vlad's homeland, Transylvania, was shrouded in an aura of mystery. Its mountainous terrain, dense forests, and medieval castles provided a suitably gothic backdrop for tales of the supernatural. It's no coincidence that Bram Stoker chose Transylvania as the setting for his iconic vampire novel. Furthermore, Vlad's patronymic, Dracul, meaning dragon, added a supernatural element to his already fearsome reputation. In medieval Europe, dragons were often associated with darkness, evil, and the occult. The association of Vlad's name with dragons further fueled the growing legend, transforming him from a brutal but human ruler into a creature of myth and legend. Vlad Tepes, the historical figure, was gradually being eclipsed by Dracula, the monster. Section 7. Bram Stoker, the Architect of Dracula. Centuries after Vlad Tepes' reign of terror, Irish author Bram Stoker would breathe new life into the legend, transforming the historical figure into the iconic vampire we know today. Born in Dublin in 1847, Stoker was a prolific writer, theater critic, and business manager. His career in the theater world, particularly his work with the famous actor Henry Irving, greatly influenced his writing. However, it was his gothic horror novel Dracula, published in 1897, that would cement his place in literary history. The novel's unique blend of horror, romance, and adventure captivated readers. Stoker's inspiration for Dracula was multifaceted. He drew upon a variety of sources, including folklore, mythology, and historical accounts of Vlad Tepes. His extensive research added depth and authenticity to his creation. He meticulously researched vampire lore, immersing himself in tales of the undead from various cultures. This global perspective enriched the novel's narrative. Stoker's fascination with the vampire myth was not merely a fascination with the macabre. He saw in the vampire a powerful metaphor for the anxieties of the Victorian era. The late 19th century was a time of rapid social and scientific advancement, yet it was also a time marked by anxieties about sexuality, disease, and the changing role of women. Stoker's Dracula, with its themes of seduction, infection, and the subversion of traditional gender roles, reflected these anxieties back at his audience. The novel's enduring popularity speaks to its deep resonance with universal fears and desires. Section 8. Dracula Rises, a Literary Sensation. Dracula was published on May 26, 1897, and while it wasn't an immediate bestseller, it soon gained a devoted following. The novel's epistolary format, told through a series of letters, diary entries, and newspaper clippings, drew readers into the story, creating a sense of immediacy and realism. Stoker's vivid descriptions of Count Dracula, with his piercing gaze, sharp teeth, and aristocratic demeanor, established the archetype for the modern vampire. He was both alluring and terrifying, a predator who preyed on the innocent while exuding an air of sophistication and charm. The novel's themes of good versus evil, reason versus superstition, and the dangers of repressed desires resonated deeply with readers. Dracula became a cultural phenomenon, sparking a renewed interest in vampire lore and paving the way for countless adaptations, interpretations, and imitations. Stoker's novel didn't just tell a story, it created a monster that would capture the imagination of generations to come. Dracula, the literary creation, surpassed its historical inspiration, becoming a figure of enduring fascination and horror.